Well, hello and welcome to PM Express. Folks, I have this strong belief that, God never made a mistake. And somehow this great architect, when he was creating the world in his own wisdom, created Chinese, blacks, Africans, indeed Ghanaians, and he placed us here. And in placing people, he gave them diverse culture and traditions and customs. And it's amazing how people have their own way of grieving, their own way of naming their children, own way of relating to God, and as they say, and in that wisdom, he created a fraternity which has stood the test of time for many, many, many years. The institution of chieftaincy has been woven into the fabric of the Ghanaian, and it stands the test of time. We've had military rule, one-party rule, multi-party rule, whatever it is, and the institution of chieftaincy still stands. But it's not easy. It hasn't come with its controversies and its ups and downs, and sometimes even its relevance being questioned. However, it still stands. And in all the hinterlands, while we are in Accra and the capitals of Kumasi and everything, eating our conflicts, we wonder how it is that the whole country is being held together. Well, there are traditional rulers dotted all across, passing laws, making judgments, making sure that morality and all things Ghanaian still stands. And today I have one such fine guest who's a chief. Last 20 years, he has held his community in check, in place, and uplifted and played his part for God and country. And on Fridays, normally the conversation changes, and so today the conversation has changed. And I don't want you to move at all because I have one fine chief we're going to have a good conversation with. My name is Nana Ansah, chief of the very little Republic of Akwamu, Edumasa. I have a chief in here who's have a slightly bigger republic than Edumasa. Don't move, we're coming straight back. Well, thank you very much for staying, and it's a personality profile. And who do we have? We have Osaberima Ansah Sasraku, who's the Manfihine and also the chiefdom of whole of Akuyapem. And well, he's been there for 20 years. He's been doing it for 20 years. So, I mean, chieftaincy, that's a lot of rank, Ohene, congratulations.
Thank you.
And Akwaba to PM Express.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to get you here, but I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made it. 20 years is a lot of feet to chalk in chieftaincy. That's not. I mean, how has it been? Has it a good 20 years, a bad 20 years, or a mixed 20 years?
Thank you. And let me take this opportunity to wish our viewers...
No, I ask you to raise your voice a little bit since you're in my palace now.
Who do. Thank you, Nana Ansah, the finest. The most fashionable chief.
But I'm following your lead. I'll follow your lead.
But it's been quite an interesting time, these past 20 years. I wouldn't do it anyway, any other way. I keep saying that when you've done something, when you've provided something, you've solved some problem, someone has brought some issue that he or she thinks is the end of him, and all you needed to do to make an intervention, and when you see the glow on the face of such individuals, and nothing is compared to it. And that for me is what motivates one to continue to do the best for one's community, the Manfi. And I'll do it anyway, anyhow.
Okay. Production still wants amplify in your voice. But Nana, you see, I don't know, but there's a quotation from one wise man who says, I'd rather lead a million sheep than to lead maybe 10 men, because it's so difficult, managing the human institution. It's just, you're unable to please everyone, and it's not you. It's cut across everywhere. Anywhere you find a human institution, it's so difficult. And being a chief, then everything falls under you. Do you find the story to be true?
Yes, it is. Very much so. Very early in my service to the community, I realized that if one thought or decided to please everyone, there was nothing one could do. There are times that one has had to take some very difficult decisions, and you needed to take it, because if you decided to please an individual, you've seen that you'll be letting the whole of the community in a certain disarray. And even if the person is the best of your friend, if it's your closest, and if the decision to be taken is for the good of the community, one had to take such tough decisions. It's not been that easy. It's cost a few issues, problems here and there, but one has learned to ride the storm, because at the end of the day, it's not something that you're doing against an individual, but you needed to keep the state together, or the community together. And if you make differentiations, this is my friend, this is my relation, so let me favor him or her in this situation, then you are causing problems for yourself.
I'll come back and find out one of the hardest decisions you've had to do in your 20 years. But let me go back to, growing up, what, silver spoon, golden spoon? Well, we're going to be we're going to ascend the highest throne, and therefore we are living as such. How was growing up like?
Anyone who knew me, as I was growing up, yes, I was quite calm, but the farthest in my mind was going to be a chief. Those who knew me, I loved my time. I loved to put.
You lived when you were alive.
I lived my life, yes. But my auntie was the Queen Mother. My father followed. We are patrilineal.
Okay, so that's your father's sister.
My father's sister, and there's one thing that my grannies always used to tell us, that we're like, though people clothed in white dream, in white cloth, and so we should be careful that we do not have any speck of stain in that cloth. Otherwise, then it becomes very visible for everybody to see. So I guided my life with that. In spite of in school you want to do some, but one was always careful that everyone can go and do something like that. But if probably you went to do that, then everyone's that used to be called paro. that's then. So I was careful that I wouldn't fall in any will go, but then to extent one would step back, not to go beyond, and one was just careful.
You made a cautious effort not to cross a certain line.
Exactly.
Are you the eldest of the siblings?
No, I'm not. My father's siblings, I'm the third, but then I have senior. We grew up in a large family, so we have senior cousins, much senior, and then
Were you the more traditionally inclined?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm just trying to narrow down why your auntie thought, no, give me this nephew.
I'll tell you a funny story. When my predecessor passed, and that was in '96, I was in tech final year, third year. No, I was in second year, next year final. He was buried in February 97.
Okay.
Then they began the search for successor. And there is more that it was next in our family, our family to provide a candidate for the stool. So they called a family meeting. At that time, I remember I'd finished tech in June, end of June, and man about town, you know, waiting to do my service and what have you. So there's family meeting, all the senior cousins, they put it to them. They called the most senior of our siblings or cousins. I mean, all those eligible, the most senior, and it's declined to do it. And they called my big brother, my father's first son, and he also said, nah, he wasn't.
Cut out for it?
No, not cut out. He rather let it pass because, you know, chieftaincy, there's some limitations and what have you. So the older folks went into a caucus meeting and came back and were like, truth be told, the last time anyone from our family had ascended the stool was about 69 years then. That was our great-grandfather. And they were like, if they don't get a candidate to occupy, ascend the stool, and went to the next one. By the time we came back,
120 years.
I mean, nobody will remember that. So now they're only going to ask anyone whether you want to do it or not.
They'll go to point.
They're going to point. So they say, Nyante, we're asking you to hold this thing for the family. And I mean, I just broke down because I could just see all my disco days and
just wiped off. Just wiped off.
But I must say that with that responsibility to hold it for the family, I took it serious, and I've never looked back. I must say that I've had some great support from my family. My auntie was a queen mother. She had been a queen mother for over 20 years, 25 years. But she passed away about 3 years ago, and she had stayed on the stool for about 41 years. You know, and some very great elders in the community, and had the opportunity to also be mentored by some very senior, knowledgeable chiefs. We worked under his feet. He taught us a lot. And more recently, one has getting some mentoring, some mentorship from Odunohoko Fakuto. You know,
he's watching. So greetings, King. Greetings, King.
And some very, very senior chiefs who would always call. One go and ask to learn from them, and that has kept one going. My siblings, my town folks, you know, their support has been phenomenal. You know, one would not want to be a chief in any other town but Manfi. Yeah.
Very well situated. But let me go back to, I mean, you were in Secretary General kind of chief, isn't it? Because you seem to get along with all. Yeah, you get along with all the chiefs. You know, get along with the Tufo. Friends with Akwamu. I mean, you seem to be able to cut across.
The Vice President Dashibre Kwebe, we see Escado, the Achim chiefs, the Kwapim.
Well, I say this because you know, you get to most chiefs and they have a line. You know, look, I play with the guys on the left, I don't play with the guys on the right. You know, or I'm very cordial with the guys on the right, and I'm very strict with the guys on the left. You know, but you seem to have this charm that cuts across. Maybe something we have to learn.
I don't know. You are saying it, but it's all God's grace.
That's God's grace. That's good. And going back to the hardest decision you've taken to say, look, this was a tough decision?
I'm still, I won't say pain, but I'm still having to deal with that, the fallout of that decision. It may sound personal, you know, but there was a time home burials. We thought were becoming something of a fashion, also to say, in the community. And so the leadership, the traditional leadership, took a decision that we needed to curtail that, stop that, because the health implications, if one doesn't take time, could be something else. And if one did not stop it, it's going to get to a time that the whole community township might be littered with tombstones, if one may say. So somebody passed, they wanted to bury the person at home. Came and said no, and wasn't, I mean, as the one would say, the chief executive, I mean, once the decisions have been taken, the implementation more or less would have to be applied also by one, even if not directly, but by some instruction. So someone passed. She was a teacher, passed away. The husband wanted to bury the person at home, and obviously, because of the decision we taken, it couldn't be allowed. Before even the burial would take place, the man also passed, and they wanted to bury the two corpses. I mean, my husband and wife, and also because the husband was in some different church, and then the wife was a presbyter. So obviously the wife was going to be buried at the Presby Cemetery, and the husband. And since they were doing the funeral on the same day,
just keep them together.
Keep them together and bury them on their plot of land.
He said, no, it won't happen.
So, in as much as one appreciated their dilemma, the situation they were in, rather found a way out. That look, this cannot happen, so go to the public cemetery, and then we'll find a place and they deal with it. Of course, these were, you may say, for, you know, so you might say it's not too easy. Then an elder of mine passed, you know, and the husband had passed earlier. We had allowed the body to be buried in his compound, so to say, on a plot of land in front of the house. And after that we took the decision that no, we're not going to do this because it's becoming fashionable, and we have stopped two persons from being buried, and these are very close friends, family. My elder, and I was part of the husband's the decision to have the husband honored and buried at home. The community or the leadership had taken the decision that no, we're stopping this, and I had to enforce that decision of the council, so to say. It was tough, you know, to look in the face of my brother, my friend, childhood, and to say that this
I can't bend the rule.
I can't. It's yes.
Now, how do you blend, your business life, Christian, chieftaincy, tradition? How do you put all this in a pot and manage it so that it doesn't spill over?
I would say that God determines and guides us in a lot of ways what we need to do. The art of putting these two together is almost humanly impossible, unless you draw from some superior being, some superior force, source. And I would say that God has always been my guidance, guardian, yes. And it's not easy, but as long as I know I'm doing what is right, my conscience is easy with, I sleep easy, I'm cool.
Now, see, I say this because I'm sure you also get it that as soon as you say you're chief, people want to find out if you're a Christian and how is it that you can be a Christian and a chief. And we are always at war with ourselves because things that are truly and purely traditional Ghanaian is like, no, this cannot be accepted by God. And how do you handle that conflict?
I don't know, let those things bother me. Like I said, my conscience, once it's clear, it's clear. But I attended some conference by the Church of Pentecost at the place that I believe if they started educating people, the understanding of what chieftaincy is, what tradition is, what Christianity is about, and all that. Many of those things are born out of ignorance, truth be told. Very many are born out of ignorance. Yes, you may find some chief who, in thinking that, oh, I've ascended the stool, I need some
extraordinary powers.
So extraordinary powers, so let me do. And that period, maybe yes. And sometimes people will then begin to think and say that, oh, that's what the tradition is about and blah, blah, blah. They're right, they're rituals, but chieftaincy is not about fetishism. For me, it's a service to the community, first and foremost. Yes, there are some things, some, I won't say rituals, but there are things that are done, religious in nature, but that's it. There are people doing those things, but once I know that I'm serving my people the best of my ability, with a clear conscience, and I'm not thinking evil of anyone, I'm cool.
Wow, we're going to take a quick break, and I know that that I was trying to do a bit of law. Trying to do a bit of law, and it didn't happen. Has he shelved that dream, or we'll live to see? Don't go away, can't say that. Thank you very much for staying. It's interesting. I think one of the things I promised myself and to my viewers and to Nationwide is to demystify the chieftaincy fraternity, because I think from afar it looks too confusing and too mystical, and you can't bring the chief closer. You understand that they all mean well. It's just service to God and country. Now, why would you service to God and country? And little birdie tells me, let's do a little bit of a crap mind. Back in the days when intercore and stuff were in school, good fun?
Very much so. Very much so. Very much so. If you gave me any other school, I wouldn't.
And then to take.
And to take.
And
yes.
to take.
It wasn't straight to take. After Ukapman, we had so much fun. I have some very good seniors, the people in all spheres of, national life. Then I went to work at the bank.
Okay.
Bank for Housing and Construction, the then Bank for Housing and Construction as a clerk. Young, impressionable, fun-loving, fully bam-tabbing here. Young man, 21, 22, what else? So as I was having this fun and I was working, I just got to realize that my mates that I was in sixth form with, those who continued straight to the university, had completed school, and whilst I was there, they'll come. Then we'll go have some beer, some dinner, some lunch, That I completed school, and some of them was looking for, national service, looking for work, and it just hit me that, hey, so if these mates of mine, not that when we were in school, I was some dumb, person, if they were to be employed in the bank, in the institution, I was going to be calling them sir.
Manager this and manager that.
Sir, and nah, this is not happening to me. So I just did what I had to do, and then went to UST. The course I wanted to do, I didn't get then. So I took a diploma course instead. I wanted to do land economy. I didn't get that. I did a diploma estate management with the thought that the following year I'll then switch, go and do the degree. Unfortunately, this was in '91. Then that year there was summer looter, and the following year's admission was so suppressed that the course, for instance, a state that it's about 70 something, they admitted about 12 or so. Wow. So I decided that then let me finish the estate management. In fact, when I was going, I got social science. I said no, I wasn't going to do it. But after the diploma, I said no, I still wanted to do a degree course. But I was then quite advanced in age. I was when I was going, I was about 26 or so. In fact, when I went to first year, my mates who came when I was in upper six, they were in Form 1. And then I did the first year with them. Then you can imagine, so I decided, no, I can't do it 4 years anymore, so let me do 3 years. So we went to do the social sciences. And it was fun in tech, Yes, you were elderly, was working before I came, so I was a little matured, or not little, quite matured, and was still running started a business whilst I was in tech, but doing quite well. First year, got involved in some and was made Mr. UST, something like that.
I'm sure you still pass for Mr. UST.
Oh no,
I'm sure you still pass for Mr. UST.
No. And then just after school, I got a Stool as the chief. So.
So you were right after tech?
After tech, finished school end of June, in the middle of August, 6 weeks. I'd become Manfihini.
That's a brief holiday. That's a brief holiday.
You can imagine.
Wow. So do you become Ohini before you wanted to do the law, or was it somewhere in there?
Oh, you are still talking about law.
Yeah. I want to make you go back.
So after tech, Ohini, In tech, I did social science. Those times we're not doing raw law, so we did sociology. I did sociology, law sociology.
Okay.
You know, social science. I mean, law sociology, and finished school. And I came back. I went to Gimpa in 2007 to do an executive master's in governance and leadership.
Okay.
For 2 years.
What would it? I mean, 32 being handed over a whole township. I mean, it must. That's a different feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It has been. It has been.
Right after tech, straight to the #1 position in monthly.
It has been. But like I'm saying, I had some very good support.
Because you need good counsel, right?
Yeah, and those times I think I had now late Professor Afwakwa, was a medical doctor. That's one of my counselors. Dr. Christie became the DC for Kwapim. That's one of the Wing Commander, retired Buedu Ansah, Kobia Bequin, Kweku Bequin was at Bank of Ghana.
These are all people. Like,
I mean, yes. I mean that one got so one got some good counsel. You know, one got some good counsel, and I think I took the responsibility serious. You know, there's some now, and I see some of us. I mean, you, for instance, you're doing fantastic. You know, you are spot on, focused on what you need to be done. Now you see some of our. Now you see some of our chiefs. Think that it's just, you know, and occasional flash in the pan, come and then go, and there's some of those things that really also not giving. But one took it serious and decided to commit fully to it. You know, if once I'd accepted to do it, then there was no turning back. I was trying to give it my 110% attention, so to say.
No. I mean, there are people who will argue that, you know, what's the point of a chief? It's an outdated culture, and probably we have to be banished with the dinosaurs. Probably an unfair question to you, but why would somebody have that thought? Probably something that we're not doing right.
You know, in the cities, the influence of chiefs sometimes are not too felt. But when you come to, or when you go to the, I won't say rural, but then in the close-knit communities, that's where you see how important the chiefs are, and because the politicians will come and go, the pastors will come and go, but that institution is always there because it's closely tied, knit with the families, the indigents. For instance, very often if there's some social need in the community, the first, or the palace at Adai or so will be the first that the citizens, the indigenous, will come and put their concerns across than to the politician. You know, and so as long as you're able to, as a chief, you're able to attempt or made effort to meet their needs, and sometimes the things they're looking for are very basic. You know, there's some, especially the old communities. I mean, you know, were built without toilets and stuff like that. So, some public toilets, some water, provision, some borehole here, get some school building refurbished or put a new one put up and stuff like that. Of course, you go and deal with the politician, but if rare, would they just get up and come and do something? Yes, sometimes they do, but as long as you are seen to be relevant, you speak their language, you engage your people, and they're able to put across their concerns, and some attempts are made to do.
As PR, I mean, what, I don't know whether it'll come from, talking about Fede being the boss of bosses, or what, I mean, what should we do for PR to change the image of chieftaincy? Or
there are very many things that must be done. If education is good, I'm sure it's not all educated chiefs who are selling the good of the institution, but I can say that very many of those who have had some exposure, once they ascend the stool, their experiences are brought to bear onto this. If some of our people who have had some exposure, some education, will tend to look back at their communities and not to rubbish everything from theirs. Not you tend to have some quality persons involved in it. Mind you, there are very many great personalities in chieftain. I mean, as chiefs, but good news do not.
Very, very hard to fly.
So is the few negative ones whose activities and actions are amplified that get to. Because if all of us, I mean, very many of us who are in the cities and stuff like that, who have linkages with our stools, our home grounds, turning our back on what to happen, you may find, and excuse my language, some persons left to be the kingmakers, so to say, whose sometimes outlook is to have someone probably can sit around and in Sefuba to have a few things and play some drafts, and they rather have someone like them, but they are the ones who've been left with the responsibility to take the decision as to who should become the chief. It's not to say that we do not have some other persons exposed, learned, who could do that, but because they've neglected those roles, they have no knowledge. And so that is it. We will need to get a little bit more involved. Those of us who are critiquing or criticizing the institution, those who have things to do with it, to look back and get a lot more involved.
20 years. What's the plan? It's coinciding with the home. So what's the plan?
Even 5, even 2, even 3 calls for some celebration, some joy, and I must say that God has been good to me. Like you say, it has not been all rosy, but in all this, we've been had some very great prayers said on my behalf by very many powerful men of God, Abu Face, so one would first of all want to thank the Almighty for holding one up to this, and then make some noise, enjoyment. But my passion now, looking back, is what we can do for our youth. You know, the youth development. The way things are going, if some intervention is not made, I wonder what we're going to be living the nation
to come back. Saturday, 9th December, anything happening in Manfi?
We are just be cleaning the community in preparation for the next day, which is when we start the
10th December.
10th December.
Okay.
When we start, there's a ceremony called Ansah Sasraku.
Okay.
During this period, when the ban on noise making is enforced or brought into being, Manfi, the concept is to foster unity and peace. So during this period, family heads are treated to bring their family members together and deal with any issues, atrocious issues that might have cropped up during the year, and deal with them and bring...
You have that burial issue to deal with before Sunday. Before Sunday. But I've been, I think it's beautiful, because I've been to it before, where everybody puts the palm wine in one big pot, and then we all drink.
Right. Because then, once you've dealt with these issues, then you are able to drink together as family, as community, among the elders, among the family heads, inter family issues, and so we come together and drink. On that day, it's like a communion.
Sure.
It's like a communion.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you're running from 10th December to
the 16th.
To the 16th.
On a Tuesday, on a Monday, it's a day for remembrance of the dead. Tuesday, as part of the 20th anniversary, we're trying to have to feed the basic school kids, in the community and the palace, have something for them, play some music. Would ask permission from the directorate, municipal directorate. I think the school will be ending about that time, so Wednesday we would sit as a community and plan what has happened over the years, what the future holds for us, what issues need to be addressed, school reports, what challenges the school administrators are facing, what interventions the community. Thursday, we are having a girl-child empowerment there with.
I was watching, so girl-child empowerment in Manfi.
Girl-child empowerment day, yes, with Dr. Anda, Bohinanda, and her team coming to.
And then Friday.
And then the Thursday evening, we also want to have a certain feast or so for the older generation, the older folks.
Like a big picnic.
Like a picnic in the evening. And then Friday, float. Then the Saturday would have
the Grand Derba.
The Grand Derba.
Unfortunately, it clashes with Kaba's funeral. Unfortunately, it clashes with Kaba's funeral.
I would have loved to come that. But the Sunday, I forgot. The Sunday after the Ansah Sasraku, over the years, try to put up some modest palace. And
yes, I know. I don't know who's coming to grace that occasion.
Yes, and then to commission.
Let me say the palace looks fine. The palace looks fine.
Yes, the vice president, we asked the vice president. He's, I think, sending someone to come and represent him. Yeah.
Well, all too soon. That's what time will allow us. We could, talk for another 20, 30 minutes, but. Hey, that's what time will allow us. I want to say congratulations to Osaberima Ansah Sasraku. 20 years on the stool, not easy, not an easy feat to chalk at all, but God on your side, you will win. And I wish you all the best. So, hey, to all of you who love a bit of culture, from the 10th of December through to the 16th of December, go to Manfi, which is just up the hill.
On the 23rd.
Outdoor DD on the 23rd as well. Well, folks, until we come back to you, another personality, have a beautiful week. And then, Nyamisha.
The finest.